Almost like Groundhog Day. How you guys doing? Alex coming at you again, and today we are going to diagnose the carburetor issue that I'm having. So the last time we left off on the 89 notch Fox is when I was keying on, I was getting fuel coming out of not only this guy but this guy. I just didn't have it on long enough for this to not be an issue, and then I was finding it was intermittent. Basically, one time it would do something, meaning fuel fly out of here, the other time it wasn't doing anything. So I was just confused. A lot of you out there got on my case saying you got trash in your fuel system, you got a dirty filter, you know what the hell. And I'm like, guys, I love you. As a tuner, about the last thing I'm gonna do is have trash in my fuel system. Has a new filter. I went empty a couple of times, cycled the fuel system. Guys, it's as filtered as you can make it. So what I thought, let me send it off to get rebuilt. Got it rebuilt, and come to find out I'm having the exact same issues. I sent it to AED Carburetors, and it has the exact same issues it's had before. So what I'm gonna do, well, okay, before I go too far. So what I did was I keyed on, and this one stopped leaking out through here because I adjusted the needle seat here. But this one, no matter how low I adjusted it, it would just keep flying out, and fuel would come out of here, go down the carburetor, flood my cylinder. So instead of turning it on, what I did was I took all the spark plugs out right here, and I cycled the engine by hand, and I was able to push out the fuel because there was a decent amount of fuel in the cylinder. So I know I'm gonna have to do an oil change before I run the car, and I'm gonna have to take the other side out and then cycle the engine by hand, or at least not have the fuel pump running, and get the fuel out of it, just so that I don't wash out my cylinders and a bunch of fuel ends up in the oil pan. But I think I'm gonna have to do an oil change anyway. Enough talking. Let's get this out. Let's see if this bowl is filling up. I'm sorry, if this float is filling up with fuel. For those of you not familiar with carburetors, this is a bowl. What's inside is a float. The float is supposed to come up and float and hit the needle and seat area. I'll show you all that in video, but let me get this guy out of here, get it on a bench or some kind of cart, and then we'll play around and show you what's going on inside. Okay, so I have a sneaking suspicion that the float on the secondary side is not working. So let me get this fuel out of here by basically just, actually I could flip it. Yeah, okay. So that's what it was doing when I was keying on. No dirt, looks fairly clean. Now there's gonna be some residual stuff. Oh, the spacer stayed behind. Jesus, look at that. The spacer was not supposed to come with. So there's going to be some residual stuff, so I'm going to kick this a couple times and make sure all the fuel's out of it. Okay. So what I want to look out for is to see if there's any fuel swooshing around in the secondary bowl or secondary float. So take this guy off first because that's the culprit. So how much over under, how many people are going to come up to me in the middle of the video and they're going to ask what I'm doing? Lately it's been like 3. Every time I step outside, 3 people want to talk. I'm like, you know, I come out here to not be bothered, but apparently that's why people buy $500,000-$600,000 homes with garages, so that no one messes with you. So these have gaskets. Make sure that you don't lose the gasket. So basically I just want to see what the float looks like. That's the main thing. What's the float look like? And move it around and see if it makes any swishing noise. And if it does, that means it's full of fuel and it'll never close properly. Then I'll show you the needle and seat stuff. When, you know, for those of you that know carburetors, there's nothing really here to, you know, wow you. It's just my personal experience by sending that carburetor to AED and paying tuition. Why do I call it paying tuition? Because you learn. You learn if the company's any good or not. You learn what they charge you for something that you probably could do at home. you learn. So I think it's good to pay tuition once in a while. Yeah, so I don't know if you can hear that, but there's fuel. And so when you pay for a rebuild, why don't they just provide new ones? So $300 bought me gaskets. Maybe they took the main throttle thing off and sandblasted it. Maybe they put new metering blocks in it, or maybe they didn't. But I mean, I paid $300 for new plugs, same jet, because look at the jet. The jet still looks like your mom's vagina, worn out. What size jet is in the secondary? Probably 70 something. 80, Jesus, an 80 jet. So they did not. I'm trying to keep all the extra noises. I just want to hear the. Oh, look, it's still coming out. So it has fuel in it. So, okay, why does that matter? Well, let's take this apart and show you what happens when the float doesn't float. Okay, so the set screw. So the float mechanism goes, obviously, when it fills up with fuel, it goes up until it hits this. Okay, once it hits this, you see that little needle right there? It closes, right? Boop. A lot of you guys were saying, oh, there's trash in there and that needle's not closing, and I thought you guys are on crack, because if the float was to hit this, boom, the fuel flow stops. You know how much trash would have to be in there? You know how much trash would have to be in there for it to not work properly? It would be astronomical. So there is no trash in the fuel. What happened was the float stopped floating. And look it, guys, I said, hey guys, give me a full rebuild. So does that mean gaskets and new hardware? Like, they bought a kit that probably is $50, disassembled everything and put new screws back in and cleaned everything. Why don't you replace the bowls? I mean, even the air bleeds were old. Like, the air bleeds weren't replaced, I don't think. And if they were, it's not very obvious because you can see all the other hardware is pretty shiny and brass, but the air bleeds, which is these right here, maybe they were replaced, who knows, but not enough to affect anything, and that blows my mind. So I'm gonna undo the bowl from the float, or the float from the bowl, and I'll see if the arm is twisted. Need a smaller screwdriver. Yeah, I need a smaller screwdriver. Wow, this screw is on there like strip. The rebuild was 300 plus, so I have probably high 300s after it's all said and done in this quote-unquote rebuild. Okay, so what you also want to look out for is to see if the leg is bent. So yeah, so right here the leg is bent, and what ends up happening was, I mean, what in the hell happened here? I mean, maybe it's not bent, I don't know, but it looks pretty bent to me. Like, don't you think it should be like this? Don't you think it should be flat? I don't know. Like, you carburetor guys, tell me. If you took this apart as a rebuild, there may be, because it's offset a little bit, right? Maybe because it's offset a little bit, it's not that big of a deal. Right? But look it. And let me put this in a more, you see what I mean? That leg theoretically should not be bent. Right? Okay. Maybe I'm crazy. I'm blown away that this wouldn't be replaced. Well, how much is this? 25 bucks? Actually, their cost is probably 12, and they probably charge 30. And I don't think this was taken apart because the hardware looks old. So the hardware looks old on this, so this was never taken apart. And if it was, I'm blown away that if it was taken apart, I don't know. Yeah, guys, look at. This is the microphone. Oh, the spring went flying. So, if you're rebuilding this carburetor, wouldn't you dunk it in some kind of solution to make sure that these aren't flooded? Hence, not floating. So think about that. Imagine you paid 300 bucks for a rebuild and they don't do the simple test of checking if this guy has fluid or not. I'm gonna make this my ringtone, just to remind me to check everyone else's work. So there you have it. Just wanted to bring you guys a video showing you what can happen. It went to AED. Sorry, AED. It went to AED. I put it on, it immediately leaked, and I had issues and it flooded my engine. Luckily, I didn't try to turn the car on and I had to hand crank it to get the stuff out of it. Call it paying tuition. I'm never going to use them again, sorry. I'm not here to bash, I'm here to give an honest review. This is something I think should be checked like basic, 101. And I'm a nobody, I know. Monday morning quarterbacking, I know. But it's my engine we're talking about, so yeah, I'm going to be a little miffed about the whole situation. All right, so I guess I'll keep this out because this is no good, and see if I can order up the plastic ones. Let me take the other one apart. Let's see if the other one started to have similar issues. Pretty much. I think I'm gonna become an expert on LS's, GT500s, and carburetors by the time this is all said and done. Nope, this one is perfect. This one is absolutely honky-dory. Nothing. Microphone. So, good float. Bad float. So there you have it. What am I going to do about it? Well, obviously I'm not going to use this company ever again, and that's okay, because that's the reason I pay for parts, so that I can have an honest opinion about it. It could have flooded the engine. It could have been a big problem. Let's say that happens on the highway and you have a filter on it and you have raw gas spewing out of your crap. People are going to say honest mistake, but one of the more critical things is the float to actually stop the fuel from going into the bowl. And if that isn't checked and replaced, I'm good. I'm gonna pass on using it. So the plan is probably get myself a replacement carburetor, or buy the floats for this themselves. But the thing is, I don't know what they did in terms of the rebuilding process. It looks like it just has new gaskets and hardware. That's it. So I'm either going to buy a completely new carburetor, brand new, like a Brawler series or something from Holley, like a 750, and use this as a backup. Just buy the proper fuel floats and put them in there. Maybe get some higher performance metering blocks and potentially bowls. But if not, I'll just get the floats, and then hopefully that'll take care of the issue. So there you guys go. A lot of you guys said it was trash in the seat. I knew it wasn't, but I wanted to show you what I found, because a lot of you guys love to Monday morning quarterback and guess what's happening, and I'm like, nah, I know it's not the needle in the seat. I adjusted these guys all the way down on the floats, and it still went up and out and flooded the engine, because it went into the engine bay when it just puked into the into the manifold. So yep, there you go. Not going to be using them going forward. All right, so we'll see what happens if I need to buy me another carburetor or if I just get fuel bowls. But I wanted to get you guys an update on the notch as to why it hasn't been on the channels, because I've been battling this for the last couple of days and I only have a couple of hours a week to mess with it. All right, thanks for listening, guys. Stay tuned for updates on the notch. We're going to get ourselves probably another carburetor and some replacement parts for this guy. And I have paid yet again tuition, because I've done a lot of learning ever since I've let other people work on my stuff. Thanks for listening, guys. Talk to you later.